Hello and welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. Well, yesterday we finished up what is known as the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to go back and listen to those episodes. I learned a lot from them as well in my research of them. Today we continue on in Matthew chapter 6, and we're going to look at verses 14 and 15 in Matthew 6. And in today's verses, Jesus really pulls no punches. He says what he meant, and he meant what he said here. So here we go, Matthew 6, verses 14 through 15. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So, whoa. Jesus has some very, very harsh words here. So what do we make of them? First things first, it doesn't mean that merely forgiving is going to get us into heaven. That's only done through God's grace. So if you haven't accepted that grace, forgiving others is a huge step, but you still need to take that final one. You need to accept that grace of God. Okay, so first things first there. Secondly, it shows us the importance of a metanoia, a repentant heart. Metanoia is Greek for repentant. Just want to mention that so I don't get emails saying, what are you talking about? We need to have that change of heart. That turning away from sin. That turning away from sin that leads us to extend that grace that God has given us to other people. So I think of later on in Matthew's gospel, the disciples asked Jesus, basically, Lord, how many times should we forgive someone? 2 times? And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7, which basically means as long as they're coming to you asking for forgiveness and they're trying, that we're to forgive them. And consequently, we're only in Matthew chapter 6, and this is about the 4th time that Jesus has said a similar statement. If you don't forgive others, you're not going to be forgiven. He says that 4 times. I think he means what he says here, and we need to take it very seriously, not just brush it off. And not just brush it off because it's hard for us, and because it's something that we may not want to do because we may be holding a grudge. Jesus is telling us to forgive people. Now, again, as I've said in those other 4 instances where Jesus has said this, is that forgiving is different than forgetting. It doesn't mean we need to forget. It doesn't mean we don't defend ourselves. It doesn't mean that we don't have that wall up, say, hey, this person's done this before. I'm not even going to hear them anymore. I'm not going to hear them out anymore. That's not what we're saying here. Okay, so we are to forgive people. Jesus is telling us to forgive people, to extend that mercy and that forgiveness that he has given us. So I think that's very important and a very hard message for us, especially in today's culture where it's cool to hold a grudge, where it's cool to go on Facebook and blast someone for what they did to us. Jesus is telling us as Christians, as his followers, as his disciples, to do the opposite. To show love, to show mercy, and to show forgiveness. Well, thank you for joining me on this edition of the Daily Bible Podcast. Hope it was helpful. Hope it was challenging. It was challenging for me, I promise you. Again, if you have any questions, any prayer requests, please email me at hopewithin18@gmail.com. Other than that, if you enjoy the show, please rate it, please share it. Thank you very much for joining me. God bless you.